Fox News Channel this year has run with a few different stories that they really pushed all on their own. They weren't mainstream news stories. They weren't even news, really. They were Fox News agenda items, and they all followed a very, very similar narrative. When him being a renewable energy policy expert didn't seem scary enough about Van Jones, Fox News morphed him into an ex-con, a violent ex-con who'd been jailed for racially motivated violence against white people. Here's how Glenn Beck reported it on August 13th, 2009. He said, quote, "Well, I don't know about you, but I'm sure glad to know that Van Jones, the communist, the radical, the anarchist, the guy you know, part of the Rodney King riots, I'm sure glad that he has the ear of the president." And on August 11th, same guy, quote, "Here is Van Jones. This is a convicted felon. A guy who spent, I think, 6 months in prison after the Rodney King beating. He was a black nationalist. He came out an anarchist and a communist. He then found the green movement was the new red, and now he's our green job czar. Why is there so much money from the green movement? Fund for public interest." Van Jones didn't spend 6 months in prison for the Rodney King riots. He is not a convicted felon. He has never served time in prison. He's never been convicted of anything. But who cares? The Fox campaign against him worked. And white people, remember, they're coming for you. Violent ex-cons who riot against white people, they're coming for you. Next on their list, it turns out, is this woman, an Obama administration employee named Shirley Sherrod. Up until yesterday, Shirley Sherrod was an official with the United States Department of Agriculture, with the USDA. She served as the USDA's Rural Development Director for the great state of Georgia. Ms. Sherrod resigned from that post yesterday, she claims under intense pressure from the Obama administration. Pressure that was apparently brought to bear after this. The same conservative website that posted the supposedly incriminating, but in the end just massively misleadingly edited Acorn tapes, now has posted what it claims to be cold hard evidence of racism. Racism shown by an employee at the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Fox News, understanding their role in this delicate, well-practiced dance, jumped all over it.
Breaking news tonight about an Agriculture Department official caught on tape making racially charged comments to an NAACP audience.
Well, that is simply unacceptable, and Ms. Sherrod must resign immediately. The federal government cannot have skin color deciding any assistance.
And this is a Fox News alert. An Obama administration official resigned just a short time ago after she was caught on tape appearing to tell an audience that she had used her position to racially discriminate against white farmers.
The whole point of her story about working for poor people, not just for black people, about working in a colorblind way, that was left out of any of the clips posted of her speech and touted on Fox News. What is not really that interesting about this whole situation is the fact that Fox News is doing this. This is what Fox News does. This is how they are different from other news organizations. The other great Fox News crusade of the past year? More black people coming for you. Acorn, an almost all minority community organizing group, torn apart day after day after day on Fox News because Fox News said they were thugs, criminal thugs who were stealing taxpayer money and stealing elections.
Let me ask, we keep hearing about this group Acorn. In every single swing state now, there are allegations of voter fraud. You had even said, you used the term stealing the election. Are you concerned that that might be happening in this election?
I join many Americans in sharing that concern.
To expose Acorn, I saw them as a thug organization that was getting my tax dollars.
Be afraid. They're coming for you. The other great Fox News crusade of the past year was more black people coming for you. That was the new Black Panther Party. Basically two whack job guys at a polling station during the election. The Bush Justice Department investigated whether those two intimidated voters that day and found that they didn't. So for normal news outlets, this understandably wasn't a story. On Fox, it's reason to play footage over and over and over and over again of a random wingnut black guy being very threatening to white people. When you run something like 4 dozen stories on just one of your Fox News shows, as they did, just on this story, 4 dozen times covering it, each time showing the exact same footage of the exact same threatening random black guy, it's a pretty effective way of getting the message across that random black guys are really threatening. They're coming for you, white people. They're coming for you. Black people are coming for you to take what's yours. And so it goes. What is the same about these 4 ginned-up Fox News-initiated would-be scandals? Van Jones, Acorn, the new Black Panther Party, and Shirley Sherrod. What's the same about these 4 stories? This isn't about racism. This isn't a story about picking on black people. This is a story about political outcomes, about the tried and true political strategy of not targeting black people, but targeting white people. Targeting white people, white voters or white would-be voters, to feel afraid of black people, to feel afraid of African American people as if they are not fellow Americans, but rather a threat to what white people have. They're coming for you. It's a zero-sum game. If they get anything, that means you lose something. The message is a political one, clear as a 1960 campaign-funded segregationist comic book. Stand up, white people. Stand up against the black threat. The Shirley Sherrod is a racist against white people story is not true. Everyone knows that by now. But it also is not new. It's political strategy to stoke fear and racial resentment among white voters. Like Kevin Phillips said in 1970, that's where the votes are. This is a political strategy advanced not by a news organization, but by political activists who use a cable channel as a political outlet. And they are pros at this. There's no reason to expect them to stop doing stuff like this unless it stops working someday. Unless someday it stops working.